السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة دلالة، وكل دلالة في النار. Verily all the praise, and certainly all of the glorification, and all of the magnification, and all of our dedication is before Allah and Allah alone. And I publicly, I inwardly, and I outwardly attest and declare that there is nothing or no one that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah Jalla fi Ula, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that are known as Abu Qasim, Al-Mustafa, Al-Mukhtar, As-Sadiq, Al-Masduq, alayhi salatu taslim, is the last and final messenger sent to guide mankind from the darkness into the light. Al-Anwan Yawm, when the evil of the world, it shatters your peace. When the evil of the world, it shatters your peace. This, I asked one of my sheikhs recently, and he said, if you keep on the path, you will find your way to the light of haqq, the righteousness, ya Allah. But the question comes, when the evil of the world, it shatters your peace, what is the mawqif? What is the stance of the Muslim? The Muslim first needs to know what Islam is, what Iman is, and what Ihsan is. And unfortunately, ya Ikhwan, we need to make tajdeed. We need to go back to the Amr Atiq, the old generations of Islam, and study Islam as if we never really knew what Islam was. Many of the Muslims, they do not know. Al-Islam huwa al-istislamu lillahi bit-tawheed wa in kanu bi-ta'ati wa khulus min ash-shirki wa ahlihi. This is the istilahi meaning, the definition of what Al-Islam is. It is the complete submission and surrender to Allah and to be obedient to Allah by following and practicing Tawheed and to disassociate ourselves with people of kufr. And al-Iman. What is Iman? Iman is qawl bil-lisan wa tasdiqan bil-qalb wa amal bil-jawarih. Iman is a statement that's firmly fixed on the tongue. Amintu billah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. It is a belief that is firmly fixed in the heart. It doesn't waver. If there's a hurricane, an earthquake, if there's a tsunami, we still believe in Allah and we believe in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-qadr al-khayrihi wa sharrihi wa urrihi wa murrihi wa min Allah ta'ala. The qadr, the good, the bad, the sweet, the sour, it's all from Allah. The believer we submit. And al-ihsanu an ta'budallaha ka'annaka tarahu fa in lam takun tarahu fa innahu yarak. That you worship Allah as if you see Allah, but know that you won't see Allah, but Allah sees you. This is the three tartib of al-Islam, wal-Iman, wal-Ihsan, ya ikhwan. So we need to move to higher levels because there's less devils, ya ikhwan. We need to move to higher levels because there's less devils. When you practice Islam on a higher level, more protection from Allah and the Malaika will come and protect you from the things that are seen and unseen, ya ikhwan. This is known. More protection, more connection, more direction, ya ikhwan. We have lost our direction as a ummah, ya ikhwan. Many of us, we love the dunya so much that we forget that we are created to worship Allah Ta'ala and to be servants, male and female, to follow the sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When the evil of the world, it shatters your peace. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't cope. I can't interact. I can't relate. I can't think. When the evil of the world, it shatters your peace. Pain, torture, damage, suffering, affliction, hurt, distress, agony, affliction, anguish, trials, hardships, misery, and all types of turmoil. We need to get our house in order before you worry about others' houses. What's going on in others' houses is not your business. We need to focus on what we're doing as a ummah, ya ikhwan. And call Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala says, Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas, ta'muruna bil-ma'ruf wa tanhawna 'ala al-munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You are the best of nations, brought forth in humanity, in the world, because you enjoy the good and you forbid the evil. وقال الله تعالى والمؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر. Believing men and women, they are protectors of one another. They enjoy rights and they forbid the evil. But that's not my business, akhi. MashaAllah, I got a PhD and a fancy Mercedes and a big house. I'm good. I don't need to get involved in what else is going on. Let me just remain silent. It's none of my business. There's a time and a place to speak out against the wrong, ya ikhwan. And as we talk about the ummah, we find that, brothers and sisters, that we are so off the path. And that's why we say, ihdina, not ihdini. It's not just me that I should be worried about. Allah just guide me. I have to make dua that Allah guide us all, and you should be making dua that Allah guide us all. Ihdina, siratul mustaqim. Some say, ya ikhwan, that Musa, he had a vision, not a dream. A vision means the mind's eye, it is open. A dream implies that the mind is still asleep. And we are sleeping, ya Ummah of Muhammad. Istaykir if you're not in. Wake up if you've been sleeping. If you don't have your mind set, the skill set, and getting off or using what they call the assets that we have been given, ya ikhwan, then we got some issues. We need better education. We need more tarbiyah. We need nurturing on Islam and the Sunnah. What we have learned, what have we learned? What have we forgotten? What are we ignorant of? These are questions me as a new Muslim, someone who embraced Islam 32 years ago. I have not been traditionally taught from the madrasa system overseas, handed down from my parents. I had to learn Islam by myself, and then after some time reading some books, sitting with other converts who went to go and study and come back to Islam, I learned Islam, ya ikhwan, from the basics. From the basics of Islam, al-wajibat wa awwaliyat, the basic foundations of Islam, the stair-step knowledge, ya ikhwan. We need to go back. Why is that? Because they say proper preparation prevents poor performance. Proper preparation, it prevents poor performance. And we have not been performing well as a ummah. There is a word called isti'dad, preparation. Some say there's 73 or 74 or 72 days left to the month of Ramadan. I was discussing that with a few brothers, and they're like, we thought Ramadan was about 5-6 months away from now. Showing that the Muslim is not ready for the best time of the year, ya ikhwan. So my dear brothers, our outlook needs to change. Not knowing where we're going. We have some issues, ya ikhwan. And Allah Ta'ala, He has informed the believers that we need to be prepared. We need to be organized. وقال الله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. Allah Ta'ala goes on to say, O believers, be mindful of Allah and let every person look to the deeds which He has set forth for tomorrow. For certainly Allah is all aware of what you do. The next ayah goes on to say, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. And do not be like those who have forgotten Allah, so He has made them forget themselves. They are truly the rebellious. Now, having some discussions with some beloved brothers over what's been happening, not just within the last 2 months, but since I became Muslim 32 years ago. The Muslims, they seem as though that we have some problems, that we can't get our act together, that we are in a state of da'f, we're so weak. And when I asked the Shaykh, he said to me, he said, Akhi, look at our situation, really analyze it. And the issue came up some months ago. Some of our brothers, may Allah guide them, and our sisters, they were protesting, I believe out in San Francisco. I think it was the Golden Gate Bridge or one of those bridges. And they said somewhere between 30 to 50,000 people, Muslim and non-Muslim, were on the streets. The Shaykh asked me one question. He said, how many people do you think were at the masjid for Fajr the next morning? Out of that group of Muslims. So if we don't have the hukuk of Allah, the rights of Allah in order, ya ikhwan, how can we have the hukuk al-ibad? أقول قولي هذا واستغفر وأتوب إليك وصلى الله عليه وسلم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. We have to re-examine how we see, how we think, and how we behave. We have distorted perceptions. Our experience is limited. We need to look at things from a different point of view. Before we look outside the window, let's first go and look in the mirror first. I'm going to be the first one to do that. The topic for today is when the evil of the world, it shatters your peace of mind, ya ikhwan. It is said that he who cries the loudest, he feels the most pain. He who keeps it all inside, he dies in vain. thinking outside of the box, ya ikhwan. This is one of the things that I believe I bring to the ummah as a new Muslim, is I don't think like many of my brothers and sisters who immigrated here. I was born and raised here in Canada. My father's from here, my grandfather's from here, and I got indigenous blood on both sides of my family. I don't think like a Muslim from overseas. I think like a person born and raised in North America. So because of that, ya ikhwan, we need the youth and the next generations to think differently. Because thinking outside of the box, ya ikhwan, because the epitome of insaneness and madness is to continually do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over, expecting that we get different results. If we are not yet invited to the dinner table, know that we are the meal. If we are not invited to the dinner table, know that we are the meal. So we need to build our own dinner table, ya ikhwan. We need to see the world, ya ikhwan, through different lenses. Some of us have eyes, mashallah. Some of us have to wear, ya ikhwan, eyeglasses. My mother's now at the age she has to use a magnifying glass. And sometimes, ya ikhwan, we need to use a microscope to see how serious the situation is. Why is that? Real eyes realize real eyes. Real eyes, they realize real lies. And there's so much lying going on, ya ikhwan. We have been lying to ourselves and we have been lied to, ya ikhwan. We find, ya ikhwan, that there is, up north, you have people, they go on these big tracks and they get into a sled that has some dogs. The sled dog that's in the front, he shows the way, leads the way, where the sled dog's in the back, they don't know where they're going, they're just following the leader. And ya ikhwan, as a new Muslim, I have sat at the table of many imams and I told them, this ain't gonna work. This is not gonna work. And years later, 20 years later, 25 years later, 30 years, they say, brother, you were right. Why is that, ya ikhwan? Because we need to realize our situation needs to be a situation that our vision, it should be submission to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Now before we end it, ya ikhwan, like we said, why we need to build our own table. Why we need to build our own table, ya ikhwan? It is because we have become the meal. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said on the authority, and Thu'ban, qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this hadith is a little bit long, يوشك الأمم أن تدعى عليكم كما تدعى الآكلة إلى قصعتها فقال قائل ومن قلة نحن يومئذ قال بل أنتم يومئذ كثير ولكنكم غثاء كالغثاء السيل ولا ينزعن الله من صدور عدوكم المحبة منكم ولا يحذفن الله في قلوبكم الوحنة فقال قائل قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وما وحن قال حب الدنيا وكراهية الموت. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this hadith is in Imam Abu Dawud and Sheikh Al-Abu Dawud said the hadith is Hassan, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to say that soon the nations will be summoned to you, just like one is invited to a feast. It will be said, will we be few in that day? The Prophet said, no, rather you will be many on that day. That you will be like the scum, like the flowing down, the scum of the sea, the froth. Allah will remove esteem from your chest of your enemies. And Allah will insert feebleness into your hearts. And it was said, O Messenger of Allah, what is feebleness? He said, you love the dunya, or you love the dunya too much, and you have a hatred for death. So now it comes down to, ya ikhwan, ya akhawat, the issue. Many wrong things are happening. And I've seen Muslims of every ilk. Some on the high level, some in the medium level, some on the low levels. So whatever level that you reach, as long as you fall into these three, we are good as an ummah. The Prophet wanted to say, in this hadith is on the authority, and Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره باليد فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك الأضعف الإيمان. The Prophet wanted to say, whoever amongst you he sees an evil, You see an evil, if you have the knowledge, the ability, and the authority, change it with your head. If you can do that. If you can't do that, then speak out against it if you have the knowledge. Don't speak if you don't have knowledge. Say it, speak it, change it with your tongue. And if you can't do that, then hate the evil in your heart. For verily this is the lowest form of Iman. It's still from Iman, ya Akhwan. So there's some brothers that have been criticizing many people. And recently, one of the brothers, I don't even know him, on Facebook, he asked me, what have you said about the situation? Calling me out, asking me what I'm doing. And I said, Akhi, you didn't see my khutbahs for the last couple of weeks? So the Akhwan, we need to stop looking at our brothers and say, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? What did you do? What are you doing? Akhi, lead the way. Show the people what you're doing. Invite them, brother, we're doing this good, we're doing this khairat. Lead by example. Don't point the fingers at your brothers and sisters. Show them what to do, ya Akhwan. And we'll end it with this, a perfect example why Muhammad ﷺ is my hero. I've seen many PhDs, many sheikhs, many fakes, many snakes talk about we have to do something, and the sheikh, he sits on the sideline and he doesn't do anything because he's the sheikh. Muhammad ﷺ, when they were building the masjid in Medina, he ﷺ, he pulled his sleeves like this up, and he went and he built the masjid with the Sahaba. They said, don't sit on the sideline. He said, no, this is my responsibility. Yeah, when the masjids are built, it's time for us to build the people. We ask Allah to help all the Muslims suffering every single land. Whether it is in the Sudan, whether it's in Kashmir, whether it's in Rohingya, whether it's the Uyghurs, whether it is in Libya, or whether it is in Gaza. Love for the Ummah is not a color, or it is not a language. It is Iman. May Allah help and rectify it with that. Akim as-salat wa rahmatullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.